Did Rachel Zegler just rewrite Broadway history or light the fuse that could blow up her own career? One moment, she was Hollywood's new darling, the Golden Globe-winning ingenue Spielberg called a once-in-a-generation voice. The next, London theater circles were whispering that she'd walked into Evita rehearsals and demanded a cornerstone male role be recast with a trans performer. No compromise. No safety net, just an ultimatum that detonated across social media before the paint on the set even dried. Supporters hailed a fearless push for visibility. Critics cried cultural vandalism. Buenos Aires tabloids blasted Yankee identity politics, while TikTok lit up with dueling trance, and somewhere between the ovations and the outrage, ticket sales swung like a pendulum, leaving producers wide-eyed at midnight spreadsheets. To understand how the girl from New Jersey, who once sang show tunes in her bedroom, became the lightning rod hovering over London's West End, we have to rewind fast back to the very first standing ovation she ever tasted. Rachel's fairy tale launch looked airbrushed for Disney. At 17, she uploaded an iPhone audition for West Side Story and snagged the lead over 30,000 hopefuls. Spielberg beamed, critics swooned, and the Golden Globe landed on her mantle before she'd even walked a college campus. For a heartbeat, the narrative was simple: fresh face, powerhouse vocals, the industry's next safe bet. But in the afterglow, a hairline crack appeared in an off-the-cuff interview where she called the original West Side a time capsule that needed shaking. Nobody panicked. Stars say edgy things. Then came the Oscars invite fiasco, she live-tweeted. Disappointment at being left off the guest list, fans revolted on her behalf, and the Academy scrambled her into a presenter slot hours before the telecast. 2 wins, 2 controversies. Patterns form quickly in showbiz. Each triumph for Rachel arrived paired with a headline that made executives reach for antacids, a viral soundbite challenging tradition, a fiery Instagram story framed as holding the mirror up. Inside casting offices, the phrase "brilliant but exhausting" began to surface, uttered half in admiration, half in dread. Agents still pitched her as the sure-thing box office crossover, yet whispered warnings followed the pitches like trailing smoke. Just prep your PR team. None of that slowed her momentum. Disney crowned her snow-white Dior scent gowns. Late-night hosts jostled for bookings. Yet beneath the fairy dust was a ticking clock. Every new role meant a new legacy property. To interrogate a fresh fan base, to win or alienate? Industry old-timers murmured that Rachel seemed less interested in fitting into stories than in reshaping them around her worldview. Loyalists countered that the business had begged for fearless voices, and now recoiled when one arrived. Either way, the stage was set for a collision, because if Hollywood found her unpredictability nerve-wracking, Broadway was about to learn what it felt like at point-blank range. And that collision would start not on a film set, but in a rehearsal room where the ghost of Eva Peron still commands absolute devotion. Next up, how a poisoned apple in Disney's kingdom paved the road to the most explosive casting demand London has heard in decades. The Disney crown looked tailor-made for Rachel until she cracked it herself. During a D23 red carpet chat, she shrugged off the 1937 classic as a time capsule, then quipped that the prince was basically a stalker. Screenshots rocketed across X, spawning the hashtag #NotMySnowWhite hashtag and 1,000 side-by-side memes of the animated couple versus modern restraining orders. While the internet roasted that soundbite, Rachel grabbed a SAG-AFTRA picket line megaphone and declared that if she had to stand 18 hours a day in a dress, she deserved to be paid for every future stream on Disney+. Striking actors cheered. Studio accountants clutched their spreadsheets. Casual fans winced at the optics of millionaire dash complaints. Disney quietly hit the brakes. Reshoots, marketing rewrites, and the 2023 strike pushed the film a full year, landing it in spring 2025, long after the hype engine had rusted. When Snow White finally opened, the glass coffin didn't lift. Global grosses stalled around $205 million on an eye-watering $410 million spend, making it the studio's worst live-action remake in nearly a decade. Trade columns pinned the flop on controversy fatigue, the sense that audiences were paying to watch a lecture, not a fairy tale. The fallout rippled fast. Theme park tines shrank, merchandising projections were slashed, and Disney's board reportedly cited the film as proof that messaging can't outrun mathematics. Hollywood spreadsheets now listed Rachel under a new column, public image. Volatility. By summer, she was looking for a fresh stage, literally. When London's Jamie Lloyd floated a radical revival of Evita, Rachel seized the chance to swap poisoned apples for Peron's balcony. It felt like a perfect reset, until the first preview rewrote the meaning of balcony entirely. Jamie Lloyd doesn't direct revivals, he detonates them. His concept for Evita planted Rachel on the real facade of the London Palladium each night, arms outstretched above Argyll Street, belting "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina" to the crowd below, while ticket holders inside watched on a jumbo feed. Street traffic halted, smartphones rose, and within days, TikTok crowned it the West End's free front row seat. Fans outside called it guerrilla theater. Patrons who'd paid £95 for the stalls muttered coup-jumping spectacle. 1. Viral clip showed a grandmother waving from the pavement, while her granddaughter texted from row F. Gran sees more than me. Debates flared on whether Lloyd had democratized a legendary moment or cheapened it for social clout. Rachel, meanwhile, basked in nightly street ovations. For a performer forged on balcony ballads, remember that iPhone audition for West Side? It was catnip. But insiders whispered that the outdoor stunt masked tension inside, vocal mic delays, camera cues, and a growing rift between traditionalists and TikTok era. Marketers who valued shareable moments over acoustic purity. Producers studied spreadsheets that flickered like heart monitors. Some performances sold out in a rush of curiosity. Others sputtered as longtime theatergoers requested refunds. Jamie Lloyd stayed publicly serene, praising live cinema for the streets, yet privately balanced crowd control budgets with overtime payouts for security marshals, shepherding hundreds of nightly spectators. And while the balcony captured headlines, the rehearsal room brewed a different storm, one where casting sheets, ideology, and licensing contracts collided. That backstage drama would soon eclipse any viral balcony clip and threaten to pull the entire production over the edge. The rumor hit the rehearsal room like a bank of stage lights crashing to the floor. Insiders whispered that Rachel strode into notes and declared one of Evita's 2 pivotal male roles had to be recast with a trans performer, full stop. No wiggle room. Fan channels and commentary podcasts ran with the story first, citing leaked call sheets and unnamed crew. And within hours, YouTube thumbnails screamed Zegler demands trans Che. No mainstream outlet has verified the ultimatum, and the production won't comment on ongoing creative conversations. But multiple bloggers followed up with similar claims. Rachel framed the demand as a chance to make Evita speak to a post-binary generation, warning that casting a cis man in 2025 would send the wrong signal. Several crew members speaking off records reportedly described the meeting as less brainstorming, more line in the sand. They say script pages suddenly sprouted notes about shared power and pronoun-neutral rewrites, while the director tried to keep the table read from turning into a referendum on gender politics. The internet needed no confirmation. TikTok stitches spliced Rachel's snow-white paste peach with the word ultimatum in bold. While Reddit threads debated whether art had finally drowned in activism, some theater fans cheered the push for visibility. Others warned it rewrites Argentine history to score Western points. Even supportive voices wondered aloud, why make Buenos Aires an arena for London's culture war? By the end of the week, the rumor had vaulted from niche recap channels to entertainment trades, tip sheets, and hopped hemispheres. And that set the stage for the most combustible reaction yet. Because once the story crossed the Atlantic, it wasn't just theater buffs arguing over casting sheets. It was an entire nation defending a cultural monument. In Argentina, Eva per Oren is less a character than a shrine, and shrines don't take kindly to redesign. As soon as local outlet Infobay picked up London's backstage chatter, headlines framed the issue not as progressive casting but as potential cultural colonization. Venin, a reascriber. Nustra, Eva. Are they coming to rewrite our Eva? Closing parenthesis. Talk radio callers fumed that a Hollywood ancian was hijacking a national icon to score applause abroad. Professors gave late-night TV mini-lectures on how 21 saints entry gender. Hashtags like hashtag Eva no say, TOCA, hands off Eva drifted up the regional X-trending list. While a smaller countertag hashtag TITRO in CLUS Ivo argued the arts survive by evolving. None of this was organized protest yet, but London producers suddenly had more than West End critics to appease. The Rice Lloyd Webber estate watches licensing like a hawk. And now, Argentine columnists were asking if legal heirs could sue over ideological distortion. Theater Twitter began tallying worst-case scenarios, injunctions, pulled funding, even a forced shutdown before press night. Inside the Palladium, cast morale reportedly split down the middle. Some performers admired Rachel's nerve. Others muttered that they'd signed up for a revival, not a referendum. And every new think piece from Buenos Aires tightened the vice. One misstep could spark a diplomatic headache, not just a box office flop. Next, with international tempers flaring, producers called in lawyers, accountants, and Crisis BR teams to keep the show from collapsing before opening night. The moment Argentina's backlash hit the feeds, producers dove into triage mode. One spreadsheet showed balcony night ticket refunds edging past £120,000, while another flagged overtime payments for the security crew corralling nightly pavement crowds. In a side room, the company manager phoned Lloyd Webber's really useful Group 2 ask how far a director can bend Evita before the author's lawyers snap. They had precedent on their minds. The Beckett estate once sued a company for casting women in Godette, proving just how fast a copyright holder can drop the curtain, complicating matters. Lord Webber has lately been very open to reinterpretations, as producer Michael Harrison bragged after Sunset Boulevard swept the Tonys. That generosity, though, still requires sign-off, and nobody in the Palladium wanted to learn the limits the hard way. So crisis calls stacked up, attorneys parsing licensing clauses, PR firms drafting dual statements, one if the demand sticks, one if it's denied, and accountants modeling 3 futures: hit, flop, or injunction. Meanwhile, Jamie Lloyd walked a political tightrope, trimming rehearsal notes to satisfy a star who wanted post-binary symbolism, and an estate that might prefer history left intact. Backstage, morale seesaw. Some castmates called Rachel our unofficial showrunner. Others joked they'd spent more time in NDAs than choreography. When a midday memo arrived hinting at possible pandemic-style trigger warnings for historic gender roles, one exhausted swing muttered, "Are we still doing theater or writing policy papers?" The joke landed flat. No one could tell if it was self-defense or prophecy. And looming over every rehearsal piano chord was the sense that one wrong headline, one lawyer's letter, could freeze the project overnight. The show's future was now less about 8-bar intros and more about 8-page legal briefs. While London tallied potential lawsuit costs, Hollywood tallied something scarier: reputation risk percentages. After Snow White limped in as Disney's worst-performing remake in nearly a decade, $205 million against a reported $410 million spend, studio bean counters blamed controversy fatigue as loudly as they blamed CGI dwarfs. Trade columns skewered Disney for giving a live-action fairy tale a year-long PR runway only to watch its star roast the original film, tangle with an Israeli co-lead, and ignite boycott calls on both ends of the political spectrum. Inside agency conference rooms, a new label surfaced next to Rachel's name: high risk, high buzz. Talent execs still admired the Golden Globe on her mantle, but memos circulated warning that every headline she generates costs marketing a fresh talking point. Disney's own scramble, hiring a social media consultant and beefing up Gal Gadot's security after death threats, became a cautionary slide in studio keynote decks. Theater impresarios felt the chill, too. When Sam Gold's Romeo plus Juliet shuttered on February 16th, despite solid early grosses, Broadway World's wrap-up credited fan frenzy that never converted to tourist sales. In other words, viral doesn't always equal viable. Now, as Evita flirted with a cultural firestorm, streaming platforms quietly downgraded her on shortlists for legacy IP. One exec, quoted in an off-record chat picked up by trade blogs, summed it up: audiences buy tickets for the story. They don't want the story to become the making of. Even supporters admit the calculus has changed. Rachel's presence guarantees clicks, but investors wonder if those clicks translate to seats or to refund requests and security lines. Her advocates say that's the price of fearless activism. Her detractors call it ego in a matchbox factory. Either way, Hollywood's question has shifted from "can she sing?" to "can we afford the blaze that follows the voice?" And the answer may hinge on whether the Evita experiment ends in a standing ovation or a smoking crater where a revival once stood. Within hours of the post-gender rumor, the Evita discourse felt less like theater talk and more like pay-per-view sparring. One corner of TikTok crowned Rachel a trailblazer, #Titro in CLUS Ivo clips spliced her balcony vocals with neon subtitles hailing history in the making. Another corner stitched those same clips with e-roll emojis and the hashtag Eva no se TOCA. Hands off Eva, warning outsiders to quit colonizing Argentine icons. Inside the Palladium, backlash translated into bank statements. The New York Post reported irate ticket holders, some who'd paid nearly £400, demanding refunds after discovering they'd be watching Don't Cry for Me, Argentina on an in-house screen while passersby got the live view for free. Reddit threads seethed over pay-to-stream theater, while Jamie Lloyd loyalists clapped back that art isn't a theme park money's worth guarantee. The split spilled into petitions. OneChange.org drive titled "Restore the Original Casting or Cancel the Show" racked up 100,000 signatures in 3 weeks. A dueling petition praising Rachel's radical visibility struggled past 12,000, but dominated progressive Instagram stories. Meanwhile, YouTube commentators posted daily Zegler disaster updates, some outright speculating that producers might sideline her before press night. Yet chaos also printed money. On the nights Rachel's balcony clip trended the box office, pinged with last-minute buys from curious tourists. Slower midweek sales followed each wave of controversy headlines. Industry trackers started calling Evita Schrodinger's hit both smash and bomb, until the reviews land by mid-June. The London press framed the debate as a culture war Rorschach test. Supporters saw a fearless star yanking musicals into the 21st century. Detractors saw an ego hijacking heritage for clout. And the only certainty was that every tweet refund. And petition tightened the spotlight on opening night, magnifying the risk that the show might ignite the culture war instead of merely depicting one. Rachel Zegler's rise once looked like a straight-line fairy tale. Viral audition, Spielberg blessing, Disney crown. Today it's a tangled feedback loop where each new role doubles as a referendum on identity, authorship, and the price of shaking sacred texts. From the poisoned apple fallout of Snow White to the balcony uproar on Argyll Street, every triumph arrives prepackaged with a thunderclap of outrage and a spreadsheet calculating weather buzz. Outweighs blowback. Can an actor transform the art form without torching the classics, or will the classics end up torching the actor? That answer now hangs on a single premiere date circled in red on West End calendars. If Evita opens to raves, Rachel's gamble becomes proof that boundary breaking pays. If the curtain rises on empty seats or legal injunctions, she may wear the industry's new warning label. Brilliant, but volatile enough to bankrupt a revival. So keep your eye on that balcony and on the comment threads that flare every time Rachel steps onto it. Because in the theater's old clash between spectacle and story, she's turned herself into both. And the next headline in this saga could be a standing ovation that rebrands her legend, or the final match that burns the whole set down. Either way, it won't be boring, and we'll be watching.